Hello, my name is Rebecca and welcome to the video. It is now August, and for me at least, August feels like that transition from summer to fall. It's still like 80 degrees out, but you kind of are looking at all the Halloween decorations at Home Goods and Ross and want to start getting things and want to start getting the spooky season, but maybe you have a vacation coming up. Maybe it's just like too hot. You're still in that kind of summer season. And I feel like August is the perfect time for those transitional books that are maybe a little bit spooky, but are based in summer or are not full like Stephen King novels yet. So that's what this video is going to be about. Before we get started, I created a Bookstagram account, Rebecca Marie Reads. I started it honestly because I want to put out more book content, but I don't want to bother my family and friends who are just wanting to follow me for my life. So I created that account and I'm going to be putting a bunch of my book content, and I'll be also letting you guys know when a new video is coming out. So please look at that down below, but let's get started. The first book that I think is a great transition is called Anatomy, a Love Story by Dana Schwartz. It's kind of like if Frankenstein was a young woman and had a little bit of a love story with it. But this book is about Hazel, who wants more than anything to be a surgeon, but she gets kicked out of the surgery school in Edinburgh and doesn't really know what to do. That is until she meets Jack, who is actually a grave robber, and he helps her kind of do her own home study. And maybe there's also a little bit of spark between her and Jack. I find this to be like a great transition book if you do kind of want those spooky themes, but also you're still feeling like a summer romance. The next book is also a spooky theme with a bit of romance with it, but a little bit more on the cozier vibe. This book is Honey Witch. It's such a cozy, perfect August read. I think August is the absolute perfect time to read this book. This book is about a 21-year-old girl named Marigold who has accepted the curse of never finding true love in order to be a honey witch for her village. And a honey witch is a witch that uses honey and kind of can talk with bees and really is able to do spells to help people in the village. And she comes across another young woman who's very skeptical about witches and witchcraft and really wants to convince her that witchcraft is real. It's very cozy, it's very lovely, everything you would want in an August book. The next book is kind of a classic. Its name is Rebecca, but the main character is not Rebecca. The main character is a young woman who has recently married a widower, and his late wife's name was Rebecca, and she has a really hard time filling in Rebecca's shoes. She kind of becomes obsessed with the ghost of Rebecca, and there is a mystery about Rebecca that kind of gets revealed later on this book, but I don't want to spoil it. The big mansion house is on the seaside, so it's kind of that like coastal mystery kind of book. So again, I love that kind of coastal spooky books for late summer, early fall. The next book, I have it. It's from the library, so there's a bit of a glare on it, but I do love this cover. It is Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead by Emily Austen, and it is kind of as existential as it sounds. The main character is a girl in her like mid-20s. She's unemployed. She is kind of going through it. She's an atheist, she's a lesbian, and she accidentally becomes a secretary for a Catholic church. It's very Fleabag, it's very Sally Rooney, Phoebe Bridgers, if that is your vibe, kind of an existential anxiety attack crisis about death, that's what this is about. So I think you're gonna either love it or hate it. But I really loved it. It was maybe a little bit too relatable. I am okay, but it was a little bit relatable. So yes, I think this is a good kind of book, generally in the spooky vibes, but not really. Makes you think a little bit about death and dying, but not in this kind of gory way. This next book is just a classic thriller. If you want a book that you're gonna be able to read quickly on your airplane, listening to it in on your road trip, or just want to get through a book really quickly in general, this is just that classic thriller book that you won't want to put down. And it is The Guest List, which is about a kind of maybe B-C list celebrity wedding that is on this island in Scotland, and a murder happens at this wedding. It is a wedding, so I feel like that is kind of like summery. Obviously, a murder is spooky, and there's like a nice mystery to it. So I think it has that kind of like nice balance of getting that spooky thriller mystery, but that classic like wedding setting. This next book is a little bit of a psychological thriller, but more of maybe a character study, a commentary on society. And this book is Anniebot, and it is about a sentient sex robot. Yeah. So there's certain parts that, if that's kind of, you might not want to. So maybe, mom and dad don't read this one. But this one was really, really interesting. A really interesting take on power and relationships, on ownership when it comes to AI, an interesting take on society and how might robots and AI interact with society, not in like a tech bro way though, because I feel like a lot of books that like talk about AI are very tech bro, and this was very much not tech bro. So I think if that's something that you're like generally interested in, this was a great book. It was fiction, completely fiction, but does very much comment on society, and you're like rooting for her and want to like shake her at the same time. So I think this is a great book in general, but does fit very well for this time of year. But those were all my books for that kind of transition from summer to fall. Let me know if any other books come up for you that you would recommend for August, for early September. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.